This is the 7th episode of the character series from the Pages podcast. Previously on the Pages podcast.
BoJack, born in 1964. Between the age 6 to 9, has started to understand his family dynamics and the toxicity of his environment, identifying the first single transformation in his life, which was a growth transformation. We can also see that he's being very resilient. He's hopeful despite everything. In the final arc, BoJack was in prison. While he was in prison, he was forced to truly think about his actions. Are we able to account for all the single transformations he had?
I tried my best in total. My dear, 30 full transformations.
Right, that's it. So you counted 5 minor
And then 5 major arcs.
Okay, so 5 mini arcs at 5 points plus 5 major arcs, that gives 10 points.
Yeah.
So total 15. And if you divide that by 30 and multiply by 10, that gives you number 5.
Yeah, he's not really someone that changes like that. He's in the middle. Right?
Yeah, he's in the middle. He's a quintessential dynamic character.
Yes. No, still calculation checks out.
When you think about it, it makes sense being quintessential because considering that BoJack doesn't exactly make such a massive transformation that by the ending of the story you feel like he's this completely different person. You know?
Yeah, like you stand up and you're like, wow, that was a great film. And then he changed his way, he became clean. Next thing he was a pastor in the church or something like that. No, the guy went to prison.
Yeah, though he's changed or he's changing, he's still fundamentally BoJack. He's still the same old broken flawed.
Still the same old guy.
Even in his final state, you can still feel that childlike innocence from him where he still regrets, but he still wants to do better. He still wants to be happy.
So this is what a great series feels like. Like, oh, this is what greatness feels like.
Last episode, Rita and I put BoJack Horseman through the transformation game, tracking his journey arc by arc. The results? A staggering 30 individual transitions across 5 major and minor arcs. BoJack scores a perfect 5 on a rounded character scale, making him the quintessential example of a character who changes constantly while staying tragically true to his core. That deep dive helped reinforce how wonderfully profound and iconic the Netflix show is. However, today, we're peeling back the final layer of the character design saga. We'll be diving into the eclectic secrets, the hidden threads of realism that make BoJack pop off the screen and into our actual lives. So, I present to you today's special gourmet on the rounded character saga about character development, realism, and relatability. Welcome to the finale of our character design saga. As usual, Rita and I will be bantering through the funny bits while extracting the masterclass lessons from our case study. So fasten your seatbelts. We're bringing this character design flight to a conclusive landing. I'm your host, Betty, and thanks for joining us. Welcome back. Hi, Rita. We have talked a lot.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, but most important thing is that you get the message. Now we're in the last part of character design for rounded characters, and we're going to talk about character development and its results, and that's referring to realism and relatability as the byproduct of rounded characters. Rita, I know we're going to do a little bit more banters. I know we won't talk fast, but just banter with me here. How do you make your Nigeria stew? Like that are regular standard tomato and pepper stew.
Remember that part of me, bro?
Do you have any other meal you like to prepare, by the way?
I think like Indomie is the best thing that I can say. And even Indomie self, you know how in school I don't used to cook, right?
I know, I
I'm still that way
do not
till
know.
now. Like it's so difficult. What do you mean? I used to come to your hostel. You know what? I used to come to your hostel to eat, bro. You remember the period when you cook for us? Well, that's
I know,
question
I
for
usually
another
cook
day.
a lot, but I kind of assume that at some point you would have to make something for yourself. You can't always buy food outside, no?
LOL. I was buying food, guy. Like even till now. I have a rice cooker, right? And that's basically it. The other things, and then thank God my sisters are always around. Like I'm always going to her house. And then my mom is
Mm,
like, "Oh my God, what do you want to eat?" Blah blah blah. She sends me food. So I'm a lucky girl. Okay.
right.
So stew, right?
Mm.
It's a process. You blend your tomato, your pepper, your ingredients, then you boil
Mm.
it, then you season it, then you leave it to simmer and it's done. Basically, just like a
Wow.
regular soup.
Yeah, your stew is beautiful. It's so simple. Like my own stew.
my,
Like
s-
you
my
first
stew is very, very simple.
you will cook the meat. After cooking, you will not fry. After frying, you not chop tomatoes and pepper and everything, blend everything. Kind of like it's a whole process. Like Nigerian stew, just not Nigerian stew, just our
It's a very
food
long
in
process.
general is a long process.
Yes.
I say like we overkill our ingredients. Like we be doing too much. you know.
I mean, it's good now. It's healthy. That's why you see Nigerians and they were like looking so fresh. And so, and we hardly fall sick.
Okay, okay. It's not audience, guys. This is not backed by science. This is just us the way we comfort ourselves for all the stress we go through. So please.
You, we need to get sciences up on that shit. This shaki, periwinkle, the vegetable, the orishirishi that we used to add now. Don't worry, I will call my science friend now. We need to do some research on that, on that. The truth.
Right. Anyways, cooking always involves gathering of ingredients, prepping them, and maybe some in between steaming, frying, baking. Like our Nigeria stew, we'll be doing the most. Overcooking our ingredients, like I said before, we do that. So, character development is really similar to the process of cooking, except it's not actual food you're cooking. You're making here a rounded character. That's what's cooking, your rounded character. If your character does not show considerable character development, you, my friend, you have a very flat one at hand. And maybe that's not a bad idea. I mean, think about it. Many shows don't typically develop their characters well, if at all. Instead, they just rely heavily on plots being fun and interesting and somehow manage to sell it anyway. I'm talking about shows from genre specific shows like action movies like John Wick.
And visuals.
Yeah. Or if you think about characters from like Sword Art Online,
Yeah,
it's just all about the visuals, the
yeah,
action, the everything. So they don't do the whole deep thing about the characters themselves. Shows that focus on specific themes or premises can also easily present flat characters, like slice of like anime, like Nigeria Days. You remember Nigeria Days, Rita?
yeah. I do. Yeah,
Yeah, I believe that we have four boys who are the main protagonists of the show. They don't change at all. There's no transition. There's no development. There's no depth to their character. They're just there.
yeah,
Another example I can think of TV shows that relies heavily on the character's identity, but the character just remains unchanged. I'm talking about SpongeBob SquarePants. Why do we watch that? Thank God.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I like him. He's a cool guy.
Yeah,
SpongeBob
it's
is a cool
funny.
guy.
It's not even SpongeBob that I like. It's Squidward. I feel like as an adult, I kind of relate to Squidward a lot. You know
Ah,
the
oh my
the,
god! And see me, I like Patrick. You guys.
the moody character that's like, oh my God, he just hates
Yeah, he's a
everybody.
moody character. Oh, he's so annoying.
I relate to him now as an adult because like, I really can understand finding somebody like SpongeBob just overwhelming. Like I can understand it.
Yes, and annoying.
And
Yes.
annoying. And then there's Phineas and Ferb. Those are two characters that are always the same. Like nothing changes about them. So all these are very fun and engaging to watch. And the audience, we don't really have to think too much about the lack of character development because that's really not the point of the show. These shows aren't necessarily about the characters themselves, though they act as vehicles for us to experience the story. Rather, these are like typically plot focused stories that let us in on the action and overall theme of the stories. However, if you're trying to create a character that's rounded, characters that are relatable and realistic can actually bridge the emotional gap between fiction and reality. You definitely want to consider some major development for them. So, how do you do this? First, let's establish what character development really is. So, again, you've thrown in your complexity to your character, you've built character depth, and you've planned out your character's transformation or arc. All of these are major ingredients to creating a rounded character. But gathering the ingredients doesn't mean your food is ready. It still needs to be cooked. In essence, character development is not about adding another ingredient to the mix when cooking up a rounded character. Rather, a more accurate comparison is that character development is the main part of the cooking process itself. It's not an ingredient, it's like the baking or like the frying or the prepping of the vegetable. It's like the main part. So, by literary definition, character development in storytelling is the process of giving a character depth, personality, and motivation so that they feel like a real, evolving individual. This involves crafting their traits, their backstories, their desires, their fears, and showing how these elements change or mature over the course of a narrative, often through a character arc, to create an emotional connection with the audience. So now that we have a better idea of what character development is, let's consider what the character development of BoJack Horseman is, the main protagonist of the show and the main subject of our discussion. Shall we? By the way, Rita, did you understand what I said by character development? I feel like I need to recap that. Was that clear how I explained it?
Yeah, it was very clear to me. Yeah, I think it's very clear. It's a whole process, not exactly like the ingredients itself.
Yeah. Okay,
So
right.
it's a process when you put everything together. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So the act of mixing it all together, complexities, profiling your character, putting them across a timeline and mapping the transformation, that process itself is what character development is all about.
Character development is, yeah, very clear.
Yeah. Let's see how the creators of BoJack Horseman mapped out character development for BoJack. So let's start with depth and nuance. We already know what character depth is all about, right? We talk about characters that are flat because they don't have a lot of substance to them. And we talk about characters that are round because they have a complex mix of characteristics, motivations, and internal struggles. As BoJack Horseman show develops, we become privy to BoJack's complexity. We get to see what makes his character so complex, from being a literal living paradox that is a hybrid of two different species to having a moral contradiction where he's not quite a good character, but we can't simply rule him out as evil, to being someone that struggles with his own internal conflict. All these are ways that give complexity to Bojack. And I strongly advise you to go and revisit our previous episodes on character complexity and depth if you are not sure what this is all about, because we covered all of this in depth in our previous episodes concerning the protagonist of the BoJack Horseman show. Part of the character development of BoJack Horseman was adding depth and nuances to BoJack through complexities and contradictions. Another way BoJack Horseman was developed by the creators is by giving him motivations. We know that Bojack is a character that has a strong desire to be relevant. You know, he wants to be liked by many. But we all get to find out eventually what's really underneath that desire. This is the outstanding difference between character wants and character needs. A character want is what they consciously desire. What you desire consciously is your want as a character, right? These are things that they like pursue like a red thread of fate.
Mm-hmm.
They believe that
Yeah.
if they pursue this goal, it's going to bring to them happiness and solve their problems. This want is driven by external plot. In contrast, a character's need is a deeper, often subconscious truth or internal lesson that they must learn to achieve true growth, fulfillment, and resolution, driving the story's emotional theme. In a well developed character, we are bound to find out what exactly that character needs. We know what Bojack wants. Rita, what does Bojack want? We know what he wants. It's obvious. He wants to
Yeah,
be
well, exactly. We know what he wants. He wants to be a very famous TV star, and he wants love from everyone and attention from everyone.
right. He
Yeah.
wants to be famous. He wants to be well accepted by the public. He wants people close to accept him and love him and just show him unconditional love. And his major setback really are his environment, his background and identity, of course. And also the toxic
Yeah.
system of Hollywood, that fast-paced celebrity high life, all those things influence him and stop him from actually
Mm-hmm.
getting these things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did get them eventually. It's just like those were the obstacles that he had to deal with. Then we discover what he really needs. He needs to accept, first of all, who he is. what he can't change or undo, and then recognize his
Mhm.
responsibility to himself and by extension to others around him.
Bam.
He
Bam.
needs to
Yeah.
try to overcome his childhood trauma and make conscious, consistent efforts, regardless of how small, towards healing and becoming whole. And he's hindered by his internal lack of acceptance of himself and delusion, and that nothing matters. He's got a whole existentialism bit going on. Another way is by evolution and change throughout the character arcs. We already did a whole analysis of BoJack's characters storyline. BoJack shows apparent change throughout the story timeline, and we've discussed this in depth in the second part. We saw through a chronological exploration of BoJack Horseman how he transformed from a little vulnerable foal born to cruel and emotionally abusive parents to this adult stallion who is defensive, unyielding, and he's a coward. He develops all these vices to protect his fragile self that never really had a chance to properly grow in the first place. So we get to see the evolution of this character from his baby phase to his adult phase, and this is a way to really develop your character. Another way that BoJack Horseman is developed as a character is by creating emotional connection. Well developed characters with depth and relatability are crucial for creating emotional connections with the audience, making them invested in the character's journey and then the overall story. This is something that we immediately recognize in the character of BoJack Horseman as he becomes like a poster boy for human trauma, whom the audience can just relate to on an emotional level. The show achieves this through backstories, actions, interactions, internal monologues, like that monologue episode in Free Churros, which was basically an episode of BoJack just talking throughout the entire episode, only him, which is something that is not very common. People don't do that. You need dialogue, but then they do
Yeah.
this. The show does it beautifully well, and it wasn't even boring. Also, through meaningful dialogues, that's now generated so many quotes out of the show. And finally, by external forces such as challenges and conflict, Bojack encountered so many of these, many that were created by him, obviously, while others were out of his control. Eventually, he has to re-evaluate himself. This emotional connection that the creators of BoJack Horseman really considered in creating the character or developing BoJack's character is a key way that they put together this really rounded character that we get to relate to. Okay, finally, we're going to talk about character relatability and or realism. We'll talk about the result of a well-developed, rounded character. Two major results from having a very well-developed, rounded character are realism and relatability. Relatability and realism are both potential byproducts of a rounded character. They are not core ingredients to creating a rounded character. I'm trying to say that you can have a rounded character that is not very realistic, and you can also have a rounded character that is not relatable. Doesn't mean that they're no longer a rounded character just because they're not realistic or relatable. So, to use the cooking analogy, if character development is one part of the character design process, like prepping vegetables or stir frying your potatoes, etc., then the result of having a delicious, sweet, or savory, or even a mixture of both dishes is similar to the result of having a relatable or realistic or a mixture of both from the creation of a rounded character. Meaning that your rounded character at the end, because you've had a rounded character, your rounded character can come off as relatable, it can come off as realistic, it can also come off as both relatable and realistic to your audience. So, as I said again, you don't need character relatability or realism to have a rounded character, but rather having a rounded character can lead to the result of your character being relatable or realistic to the viewers.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is
Mm.
a character can be rounded and yet you will not be able to relate to the character, right? So
Of
all these
course.
things like the backstory, the storyline,
Yeah.
the complexity of the character, it kind of makes sense along with the timeline, but you've never been in that situation before. For example, like horror movies, the way they do like horror movies, where maybe you can like relate with the serial killer, but you've never been a serial killer, so you cannot relate to what like the serial killer is feeling. And then you can also also vice versa, and then it can be true on both ways too. Like it can be relatable and also rounded, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So the main thing I'm trying to say is that it's hard to have a character that is relatable or realistic, that is not a rounded character. Like it's hard to have a flat character that is relatable.
Relatable. Yeah. But can you have a flat character that is realistic?
Not really. I don't know, honestly
Wow.
speaking. Because for me to say you are realistic, you
That
would
means I
have
can
to
relate to
have.
you.
Okay, so now we're going to the real thing. Now we have to actually discuss what character realism and relatability is for us to understand what we're really talking about and why flat characters cannot necessarily be realistic or relatable. Because
Mm.
for a character to be realistic and for a character to be relatable, there are certain things they must possess. So we're going to get into
Mm.
that right now.
Okay, wonderful.
Character realism, what is it about? It is the quality of a character to feel like a real person, like someone you might actually know. This is a character that will usually have strengths, flaws, contradictions. This makes readers or just the audience care about their journey. It makes a character's story believable. Even in fantasy or sci fi characters, if they are grounded in authentic human emotion and motivation, they can make this fantastical world feel real. So, what makes a character feel real? By the way, having complexity, depth, and transformation are major things that make a character feel real. The minute a character starts having complexity, depth, and transformation, is no longer a flat character. This is why I said you can't have a flat character that is realistic because the minute,
They're realistic.
yeah,
Oh,
because what makes your character feel realistic is them having complexity, depth, and
see,
transformation.
and transformation. Okay, okay.
So once they have these three things, they're not flat. They're not SpongeBob. They're not Barney, with no story. We don't know where Barney comes from. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's impossible for them to be a flat character once they possess complexity, depth, and transformation. So,
Okay.
in addition to these three things, what else? Consistency. Characters need to display a behavioral reaction that is consistent to their character traits. Someone that is confident cannot suddenly start showing signs of just being unnecessarily shy. I know that you can be confident and still be shy in some cases, but you have to have a good reason why this confident person is shy. You cannot just be shy unnecessarily. You get.
Yeah.
Same thing goes to a character that is a coward, right? You have a character that is a coward and you cannot just make them suddenly brave. Like, what's going on? Why are they brave?
Oh my god.
Even in the event of a major character arc, even when maybe a cowardice character, for example, just becomes brave, they don't immediately become brave. They don't do a 180 and then suddenly, because they've had these moments where they are brave, then suddenly they're just like the bravest person in the show. Rita, do you remember Brave the Cowardly Dog? I don't know if you ever.
Yeah, it's Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Courage, sorry, I said Brave the Courage. Yes, Courage the Cowardly Dog. If you remember, he's actually the bravest person in that
In
entire
this
show. Like,
show, yes. Yeah, but
but despite how brave he is, he continues to show his first reaction to everything is to be afraid every
afraid.
single
Yeah.
time, despite how
Yeah.
consistently he's shown as being a brave character. So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. Like, your character needs to have a pattern, a set of pattern of attributes or traits that is consistent to their character. They cannot just be this and that, just be all over the place. They need to be consistently a specific kind of person for the audience to really understand who this character is, right? In BoJack Horseman, the more you watch the show, the more you can almost predict BoJack's reaction to certain things. The show establishes very clearly, without ambiguity, BoJack's personality and his way of thinking. That when in episode 1 of season 2, called Brand New Couch, where BoJack was trying to bring this whole new character and he's trying to be like positive. I was like, yeah, hello guys, I love life, love is great. He's trying to do all that. Even the characters in the show, the other characters in the show, are like, who is this guy?
Yeah. They were like, was everything okay?
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, consistency, guys, consistency. Another way to make your character feel real is introducing meaningful and justifiable character arcs. People change, and we know that, right? We've talked deeply about it. If your character is modeled to resemble a person that can possibly exist, then change is to be expected, no matter how big or small. But how to create this change, it actually matters.
Okay.
The safest way to show character transformation in the most realistic way is to show gradual but steady transitions. Because in reality, people don't just change just so dramatic, like, boom, just like that. There will be clues leading up to the main events, slight alterations here and there, and a lot of internal struggle. Even if it's like a stark contrast, the changes must feel earned. It must feel like this change came from somewhere. It must be connected to the character's personality and experience. I love BoJack Horseman for this because the show portrays transitions so realistically, not just BoJack, but also the other characters. It's never extreme, and even when it is, there is a logical explanation behind it. Take, for example, Gina. Remember Gina, the one that BoJack almost strangled on set, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, our transition was tragic. When we first met her, she was just chill, comfortable in her own skin, versatile, and easy to work with actress who basically took on any role handed to her. And she just never really complained. She was just chill like that. By the end of the ordeal with Bojack, despite how high her career became more successful than she had ever been, she became this flighty, anxious, picky, inflexible, and difficult character who couldn't even do a simple dance scene with a man unless every single aspect of the choreography had been analyzed and approved by her. Like, she had to be warned ahead of time and get herself mentally prepared. Otherwise, she would just freak out. She simply could not do the whole impromptu anything goes beat anymore, and it seemed that it began to hurt our prospects in the industry. Yet,
Yeah.
we all understand. We understand why this is happening to her. And it doesn't seem like an overreaction, considering that she actually almost lost her life doing what she used to do. That. Another way to introduce realism is to give your character an authentic backstory. We know that part of crafting character depth is giving your characters backstories, but realism requires an authentic one, not just a story that fills in the gap. The backstory should be connected to the character's childhood, the family life experience, significant life experiences, core beliefs, personal values. It should be connected to who they are. It goes without saying, right? But sometimes storytellers kind of forget to make this connection. So the story should feel like it belongs to them and not someone else. It's also important that the time period and location stays consistent to who this character is. I want to use the example of this Cartoon Network show called We Bear Bears, which is like an absolute comfort show for me. I love it very much. I don't know if you know it, Rita.
Yo, I know them. The Anaya bears.
I love them.
We
I
do
love it. I love it.
Anaya. Yeah, we had
I
to. Yeah.
love them. Anywho, in the show, we have the character called Ice Bear, who is a character that only speaks in monosyllables. And we are first led to believe that he's just this extremely capable and skilled character who doesn't really talk very much. We know that he's the smartest out of the three bears, even though he doesn't talk much. He can cook, he can clean, he's great at maths, he's an inventor, a builder, a great dancer. He knows how to speak multiple languages, albeit in short sentences. Question is, where does he get all the skill set from? Like, out of the blue, he just knows how to do these things? No. Fortunately for us, one time we get backstory to his origin, and it turns out that he was abandoned as a cub in Arctic Russia. He was taken in by a man called Yuri. Yuri taught him important skills like cooking and everything that he learned, even Russian, right? But eventually, Yuri sent Ice Bear away on a piece of ice after there was like a misunderstanding, leaving him to become the Ice Bear seen in the series today. While this might not be the most realistic story in the world, but it is consistent with the story of the character that is Ice Bear and explains all those skills he possesses. BoJack Horseman gives backstories that are actually consistent to the character's storyline and who they are. They're believable and authentic, like BoJack coming from a long line of abusive and toxic family, his intrinsic hatred for himself, and horses in general, his need for validation acceptance, his strong emotional disconnection. We get an authentic backstory to all of this, and we get to understand or empathize with his character better. Even the way they craft the love stories that we get to be introduced to in the show, it doesn't feel forced. You're left to think, oh, that felt right for that character. Like Judah and Princess Caroline's coupling was so beautifully written, considering all the toxicity that Princess Caroline had suffered under Bojack's hands when she was dating him. She was unconsciously even sabotaging herself. She unconsciously sabotaged one romantic and fairly good relationship that she had because she was too afraid to depend on anyone. It felt so real how the show didn't let us to believe that that one good boyfriend she had was the problem. Rather, he was portrayed as a very attentive and sensitive character to her. He was just simply not the one for her. You literally could have somebody who is all the right things on paper, and in real life, you just don't end up with that person. It doesn't mean you don't love each other. It doesn't mean like love wasn't real. It just happens. It's just life. And it was just beautifully written. Realism isn't always about creating a character that looks like an actual person with the background of a real person that can exist. Otherwise, almost no character in fictional stories would be considered realistic. It's more about giving your character a set of attributes that is authentic and believable to this character. If you give me this character and all of these stories, I believe it because it's consistent with who this character is. Right? Again, like a polar bear who is not living in downtown Chicago, and you say, okay, this polar bear came from like Arctic. I mean, it's quite convincing compared to if you say there's a black African guy whose origin is in the Nordic zones, like he's one of the Vikings. How do you explain a black African Viking in the middle of freezing cold North Europe in a period where there was no boats and ships? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there is a
Yeah.
possible explanation, no. But my love, me, I'm already cringing thinking about stories that someone come up with saying this black person was like in the middle of the Vikings. Right.
Or like, I don't know how to explain it. I really don't hate the swap if they decide, okay, we're just gonna make this character black. Like, okay, let's just do it. I really do not hate it actually. As long as they make it rounded, you get, then that's really
Sure.
cool.
Okay, maybe it's not going to be the worst thing, but it's still going to be questionable. I know you can come up with a good reason why there was a black person in the middle of
Yes.
an Arctic zone, but you have to place that character in a time period that actually allows that kind of movement to happen. You can justify it in a way that it feels realistic, but I guess in the end, like I said, having a realistic character is not what makes your character rounded, and it's not
Yeah.
obligatory for your character to be realistic for him to be rounded. Hi, pages. We want to take a second to remind you of those unfiltered extended versions of every episode that are available exclusively on our website. Just head over to www.pagespodcasthq.com to dive into the full conversations. If you subscribe there, you'll get notification every time we drop new content. While you're at it, don't forget to like and leave a comment. It really helps us out. And if you would like to further support the show, you can find our donation links right in the episode description. Thank you for being a part of this, and now let's get back to the show. Now, let's get to character relatability, which is the final part. Before I get into it, though, I want to ask Rita, is there any character you related with the most from BoJack Horseman show? Or literally any other show in general? And why?
O- Okay, yeah. So I related to his ex girlfriend, the cat. She's
Princess Caroline?
Princess Caroline. Yes, I like her a lot. She's my type of girl. I like how she even talks. I wish I could talk like that. But I could relate to her more because her experience is kind of, I won't say it's similar to my experience, but it's just something that I could see myself like, okay, the decisions that she's making are the kind of decisions that I'll probably make myself too if I were in her shoes. That kind of thing.
I think mine is Diane. By the way, I was wondering why you said Princess Caroline because I don't see you as a Princess Caroline archetype. Or maybe you could be.
Yeah, the potential is there. Yes.
I feel like you're a combination of Princess Caroline and Todd. You know Todd?
Oh, now I'm less. Todd is more forgiving than me. Princess Caroline, yeah. And then it's because I feel like I'm not gotten to my full potential yet. When me I get to my full
Mm,
potential, like I can manage people, talk like her, handle situation. Like look at the way she managed to get him all these deals, right?
right,
And then she was trying to get the best deal for him and all of that. So that's
right,
my shit. Yeah.
right.
I like the way she set her
Mm,
boundaries. She was like, I don't want to depend on anybody. That guy that she formed a company with, or she left her previous
mm,
company with, and then they built a
yeah,
company together, and then he was fucking up. She was like, yeah,
yeah,
let's just go our separate ways. That's me, man.
right,
If it's not working out, to move forward. Yeah,
right. Okay. I think mine was Diane,
definitely.
which is actually kind of strange because in grand scheme of things, amongst all the other characters, I related to Diane the most, and she's not even my favorite character. Judah, the one that Princess Carly ended up with, is my favorite character, and he's not even a main
Ooh, okay.
character.
He's not even the main character.
No, yeah. But I related to Diane the most because I could see some of her judgmental behavior in me. I could also see myself as somebody who like pushing people like, you can do better. You don't have to live like this while I'm also suffering myself.
I also kind of appreciate her honesty, right? Like, and that's a trait
Yeah.
you also have. Or like, she's not someone that would sugarcoat things? Question mark. I have a feeling that she could, but she doesn't exactly sugarcoat things. She's like, yeah, I'm going to tell the truth. Like, this is the way it is, and then yeah,
Yeah.
this is the way you handle it.
Yeah. Anyways, character relatability is a character attribute that is actually quite similar to realism, but the difference is that it's subjective. By definition, character relatability is a quality of a fictional character that allows a reader or audience to understand and connect with them on a fundamental level, often by recognizing universal human emotions, flaws, and struggles within the character. It enables the audience to empathize with the character, feel invested in their journey, and care about what happens to them, even if the character's specific circumstances are very different to their own experience. For example, for a character to be relatable, there has to be some level of human realism, obviously, because how else can anybody relate to an animal character or just any non-human character if none of those set of realistic human traits are assigned to them in the first place? However, a character being realistic doesn't automatically mean that the character will be relatable. Like I said, we can all watch the same character and I can go, yeah, I relate with this character, and you can go, nah, I don't. And different people would relate to it on different level based on their experience and their own personal view of the character. So character relatability is not something that you can force as an
Mm.
author. Maybe you're modeling this character towards a specific kind of audience who have gone through similar kind of situations. So when they would watch it, they would be like, okay, yeah, this represents me. I relate to it. But any other person that is outside that target audience would probably not relate to the character because they feel disconnected from the story, from the experience of it. But again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You can't make all your characters relatable to every single person. It would just relate to people that have that kind of similar experience, more or less, or just have traits in that character that they can think, okay, yeah, that could be me. So, key aspects of character relatability: you always have emotional connection. Here's why BoJack Horseman is considered a relatable character. Relatable characters always display universal human emotions such as joy, fear, shame, longing, frustration, etc., which makes them more human. That's something we see a lot in characters in BoJack Horseman, especially BoJack, because in the entire series, we get to see BoJack in his best and worst form, and we saw him display a large range of emotions. Some of those emotions were so relatable that you yourself, you can't help agreeing with him. For example, the second episode of season one, when there was this Navy SEAL called Neil McBeal. He gets into this place and he calls dibs on cookies that he left unattended in a grocery store, and he demanded that Bojack should give it to him. So he takes these cookies, he claimed that he left it in the produce section, went to the bathroom, and in his own head, he thought that by doing that, nobody was going to pick it up. And Bojack was just like looking at it. But when he came and was like, oh, give me that cookie, I called Deeps. Bojack is like, I'm sorry, you called Deeps on cookies that are left unattended in the produce section in the supermarket and it's not paid for. Like, how? And this seal throws like a whole fit. He starts arguing. And in that moment, even me, I was like irritated with the seal. Like, what the heck is your problem? If you don't want somebody to
Yeah.
take it, like,
You would have put it somewhere else. It's a public
I mean,
space.
it's literally a public space. It's like me finding a perfume in I don't know where there is
Mm,
milk, and it just catches my
mm.
eye, and I pick it up, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, maybe I will even get it, and somebody comes like, oh, that's mine. I'm like, huh? How is it yours? It's like
Yeah.
literally.
Question mark.
No, I didn't put it in a basket. You just put it in a
Yeah.
random place and think, oh, well, nobody will pick it. So I felt his frustration because it's such a human experience, because there are people that actually like that who feel entitled to things for very stupid reasons, you know?
Hmm.
Another one that was very relatable was when Bojack went to an administration office when he was trying to help Holyoke go through some public records so that they can find her birth mom, right? Then BoJack was very frustrated about the experience with the bureaucratic process and the rude administrator who was secretly playing solitaire behind the screen while pretending to be busy. It just reminds me of bank experiences in Nigeria when people are like, oh, yeah, I'm coming. And you kind of feel like they're not really doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're just doing something else on their screen, but they're trying to look busy and they will just be rude. And you can relate to that, you know?
The bank or like local government. It's mostly local government offices that this kind of thing happens.
Just anything public, just have this kind of behavior. And they're always very rude. And I think I could feel his frustration too, because I can remember me going through that. Another way characters can be relatable is by having shared experiences and struggles. I think we already talked about there. If you're a writer, for example, you might find a character like Diane very, very relatable in BoJack Horseman because she puts out all her frustration about having writer's block and not being able to dig into her deep emotions because she was depressed and being able to bring out the kind of work that she really wanted. So if you're an artist or just in any creative space, you might relate to that a lot. Now, having flaws and imperfection is a key thing. Bojack is a character that is filled with flaws and imperfections, but what about the other characters that seem perfect at first sight? Think about Mr. Peanut Butter. It turns out Mr. Really Good Doggy Guy isn't really too
Yeah.
much of a good guy. He's not that good of a goody two shoes, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you'll see that when we start to explore the side characters in the future episodes. Now, internal conflict and vulnerability, that's a way to explore a character's inner struggles. And by presenting all of this in BoJack Horseman, we get a front seat to the internal views and intrusive impulses of BoJack Horseman. The only problem is that BoJack sometimes he acts on his intrusive thoughts. You are supposed to suppress them, not act on them. But BoJack is like, I'm gonna do it.
I'm screaming. It's like, it's just us. And it ruins everything.
Like that part
I'm
where he was like,
screaming.
not everyone in the Navy is a hero.
Yes.
Just because you are legally allowed to hold guns and shoot other people doesn't mean that it's right. Honestly speaking,
Yo.
that is a
Real.
politically charged statement to make in a world where everyone needs to sugarcoat and cherry pick what they say.
Exactly. I was so proud of BoJack at that point.
He would get cancelled.
What you what?
In real life, he
Okay,
would
yeah, he
get.
will get cancelled by general public.
Yes, and even in the series, they were pressuring him, and he actually ended up having to apologize for
Yeah.
obvious things that he said. There was literally one character I was like, just because you are bold enough to say what we all think and we all would just not say, doesn't mean you have the right to say it.
To say it, yes.
There was a character that
I mean,
literally said that. How dare you say what we're all thinking, but don't have the courage to say, Bojack? How dare you?
I mean, that is so real. Oh my gosh. That is so real.
And people will now get
Man,
angry for you saying something that everybody's thinking, but nobody wants to say.
that is so real, man.
Another way is authenticity. You need to make your character authentic. So, a character's unique personal history, idiosyncrasies, and contradictions contribute to their individuality and authenticity, making them feel like a real person. Like I said in episode 3, remember when we talked about what's a genuine character? If you remember, I said like a rounded character in fiction is equivalent of a genuine person in real life.
Life, yes.
Exactly. So it is a character that stays true to their clear identity and shows deep inner life, all of which are true in the case of BoJack Horseman. Despite his story and the transition that he takes, at the end of the day, BoJack is still a horse and is still a man. He's still a horseman, which means that there will be aspects of him that he can't shake away or change. And that's how life actually is. Like, no matter how much you transform, you can't change who your parents are. You can't change where you come
Mm-hmm.
from. If you like
Mm-hmm.
do all your transitioning and change, you can't still change the fact that you were born biologically a specific kind of gender. And there's so many other things about it that you still can't change. Like your history, your life, you can't change those things. Sure, you can rewrite it.
Right, it, yes, but that part
Yes,
doesn't go
it
away
doesn't go. It's your
exactly.
history. It's just it has happened. It has happened. There's no.
Yeah, it has happened. Yeah.
Even if you deny aspects of yourself, it's not going away just because you deny it. It's going to be there. It's just going to be a fact of life.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, yeah, yeah. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, which means that it's just that this is life. And I love how in BoJack Horseman, despite everything, BoJack tries to deny himself, forget himself. Some characters even try to pretend this didn't happen, but it still didn't change the fact that it actually
This
happened.
happened. Yeah.
You know, in the view from halfway down, which is the penultimate episode of the shows, it touched deeply on the issue of acceptance and his near-death experience. BoJack had to wrestle with the parts of him that he tried to deny or reject. The resolution that BoJack finds while he's doing time in prison is he accepts everything. He finds acceptance in what is and not what could have been. You know, sometimes we
Mhm.
start focusing on like, oh, okay, maybe if I had done it this way, it couldn't have been. And it's like, it doesn't matter. All of that, it's in the
Yeah.
past. What has happened has happened.
What's important is now.
Yeah, like what
Yeah.
has happened. There's no undoing it, right?
Mhm.
So, in the last episode of the show, when Bojack had his final talk with Diane after their silent friendship breakup, Bojack begs Diane to listen to a very funny story before she goes. She's hesitant, but eventually she sits back down on the roof with Bojack and she listens to his story. At the end of the story, it's kind of funny and she laughs. And she tells him she's sorry about his new life in prison. And Bojack makes a comment, quote, he says, yeah, well, what are you going to do? Life's a bitch and then you die, right? Then she responds saying something very profound. She said, well, sometimes life's a beach and then you just keep living. The show gives us this idea that a person's story doesn't really end until they draw their final breath. So it stays authentic to the idea of consistency and existence. Authenticity is the whole point of the entire series. So, in conclusion, creating a relatable character is all about focusing on the humanity of a character, showing emotional depth and emphasizing growth in your character, giving them goals and life challenges that allows their character to clearly shine out. And finally, you must leave room for your audience to come up with their own interpretation or conclusion of the character. You know, let your audience find space to project their own perspective on the character because a great story isn't about tying loose ends and giving the audience all the answers and then calling it a day as if that's where the story ends. It's one of those unrealistic happily ever after stories, like all those stories that go and they live happily ever after. It's like, then what happened after the happily ever after? Because life continues after that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does.
It reminds me of a time when Princess Caroline was talking to BoJack in the last episode during our wedding, and she was like, I feel like today is the best day of my life, and I'm so happy, but I'm afraid that maybe this is the best day of my life. So if today is the best day of my life, then I don't know if that I should be happy about that. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm not going to have any other?
Best days.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah, that
like
is
if
so me, man. She's so me. You know when you're so happy that
you,
you're afraid. You're like,
yeah,
oh my god, is this my peak?
yeah, like this is the best day of my life, then it gets scary. Like, oh my God, if this is the best day of my life, does that mean that no other day in my life is going to measure up to this day, right? And Diane said something to BoJack about also her own wedding, and she's like, well, you have your wedding and it's the best day of your life, but then there's the day after, and the day after, and the day after. And then what? What are those days if that's the best day of your life? Those more days
Exactly.
that you have to make an even better day of the best day of your life, right? So, in conclusion, here's a quote. This is from yours truly, Betty. A quote for you guys. A great story is one that is always in progress, forever in a state of development, and to be continued until the character is no more. That is it.
That's why they won't let Naruto die. Controversial. Sorry, guys. Please don't cancel me. Please don't cancel me. Please, please, please. I don't want. Please. You know.
All right, Rita, we've come to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Hi, Faith Jazz. It's truly wonderful that you've made it this far with us. If you've been with us through the start of the series, I hope you're walking away with a treasure trove of knowledge, not just as a creator, but as a person. Rita and I have drizzled so many foundational life lessons into this journey. We've laughed, we've sat in deep reflection, and we've learned just as much as you have, if not more. We would love to hear about your experience. Please leave a comment and share your highlights from the series so far, especially from today's episode. You can connect with us across all socials at pagespodcast_HQ, and you can stream our episodes for free on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Podcasts. Now, if you think we are done, I'm actually very happy to disappoint you. We still have a few more stops before we wrap up the season's deep dive into BoJack Horseman. Next time, we move into the character categorization saga, and it is the final chapter of the season. We'll be exploring character hierarchies, roles, and archetypes. If you've enjoyed the ride so far, you should stay tuned because it's about to get even more insightful and actually a lot funnier. So stick with us, keep creating, and we'll see you on the next page.
Bye.